Welcome, guys, to another episode. This one will be pasta night. So we're doing three kinds of different pastas, all homemade doughs. First one is going to be a raviolo, which is a really big ravioli. We put an egg yolk in it. And then next one is an agnolotti, look like little pillows stuffed with more ricotta cheese. And the last one is a take on cacio e pepe. It's a traditional Roman dish. It has this pasta water, butter, and pecorino romano, but we'll alternate it and change it with reggiano instead because it's my favorite. But we're going to add some little twist to it with a little bit of smoked salmon, capers, and some tomatoes, almost like a lox style. So, all right. So first thing we're going to do before we make the pasta, since we're doing some kind of ricotta cheese, is we'll start with the filling first. So this is just typical ricotta I found at Mother's Market across the street. If you want to know the brand, it's called Di Stefano. And certain ricotta varies in their moisture content. This one I prefer a little bit better because it's a little stiffer, so you don't have that much water when you put it in your dough, because you can see on the bottom, it actually has this little basket. So if you take it out, you'll have some of that whey on there. So you don't really want a lot of that liquid, just the cheese. Kind of scoop this all out, and then we'll season this too with salt, some more parmegiano reggiano, and some lemon zest to give it some brightness. So we got our salt. I'd say about a tablespoon, half tablespoon. A couple cracks of fresh ground black pepper. And then last we'll have some of this lemon zest. Kind of brings, lightness to the cheese. Gives it a different complexity. Now you'd only want the zest, not really the juice. Otherwise it'll be too wet when we come to pipe it into the pasta dough. That's about good. And then some Parmesan, freshly grated. And when you want to make fresh pasta, you want to actually buy good cheese. So this one, you can either buy it at Mother's Market or Whole Foods. And you'll see the big blocks of cheese with the big wax on them. That's the good stuff. You can see it's all oily and a lot of fat on it. The cheese, the other type of the Parmesan, will also just help bind it together and give it more saltiness. So what we'll do is just mix that in nicely. And when you make agnolotti, you kind of want this a little cold so it's nice and stiff. So that's why we're making it ahead. Give it some time to set. We'll have a little bit of a little taste here. That's good. All right, now I usually use a piping bag. So this one I found at a restaurant store, or if you have any other piping bags. This is a reusable one. If you have a disposable one, that'd be okay too. I like to pipe it just so I get an even amount on each dough. And at times people's like, oh, I don't know how to make fresh pasta at home. It's fairly easy. And it's even easier if you have a KitchenAid. You'll see we'll do everything in one machine because I have the attachment. But if you have a KitchenAid and you have a hand crank and you don't have the attachment roller, then that's fine. But the KitchenAid, I feel it's best to roll the dough in or to mix the dough instead of doing the traditional way of hand crank or like a whale method. So put this in the fridge, let it set. And then now we can start on our pasta dough. So this is an egg-based pasta dough. You can do straight water and semolina without egg to make it, vegan. But it's a little hard since you don't have a binder. So that's why I like to use a little bit of egg. I have the recipe right here. And we're going to scale it out. So first, one batch. So we'll have, I'll show it over here. It's I bought this in the Italian market in Tustin called Claros. It's just basically 00 flour. Really good for pasta doughs, give that nice true texture, and then semolina. So I don't do 50-50 like most people. I do like 60-40. So just get a scale. So for this recipe, we'll do 6 ounces of 00. And pasta is one of those things like you can measure it like bread, and it could be different, like depending on your atmosphere you have. Sometimes it'll come out a little wet, so when you need it, you'll have to add a little bit more flour. So we got 6 ounces of 00. Then we do 4 ounces of semolina. That'll give us 10 ounces of dry ingredients total. And then a half teaspoon of salt. I only got a quarter teaspoon. Can't find my half teaspoon somewhere, so do 2 quarter teaspoons. Set that aside. That's our dry ingredients. And then now we'll do our eggs. So I just buy the pasture-raised eggs. Reason for this is it gives it, the yolks are a lot nicer, more orange, vibrant. So it's a lot nicer in your end process of the dough. It's nice and yellow. We don't need to weigh this one. So we're done with the scale. So it calls for 6 yolks and 1 whole egg. Now if I do a lot of eggs separating, I like to get them all together in a bowl, so it makes it easier to separate one by one. So we'll go 6 yolks. This one, maybe it's easier with the board. 1, 2. It's a good practice too if you want to try cracking an egg with one hand. You just do crack 3 times, and where you crack it, that's where I kind of break it apart. 4. Now, if you use larger eggs, the ratio is going to be completely different. So, because there's like extra large or jumbo. So depending on what you have, you'll just have to adjust, your egg ratio or add more flour. So we got 6 whole eggs here, and then we'll do 1 in here. And now to easily separate it, I just take it out of the bowl one by one with my hands. So you're not sitting, cracking one egg, separating one egg, and then your hands are all dirty everywhere. It's kind of a trick that we have at the restaurant. Sometimes we're making pasta like this. We do, doubled, like almost quadruple the amount, like 24 egg yolks. And then, sometimes too you can buy egg yolks already, but they're hard to come by in store. So this is the more approachable for You guys should try it home. And then don't trash that. You can use that for like egg white omelet the next morning. A lot of things if you want to make desserts, some meringue, stuff like that. So we'll save this aside. So we got 6 yolks, 1 whole egg, and then now we need to do other wet ingredients, which is the olive oil. It's about a tablespoon. It's extra virgin, to your preference, whatever you like. And then another ingredient is whole milk. Gives it more fat content. So I just basically separate my wet and dry ingredients together. And now we are ready to get some pasta going. Find my dough hook. Oh, there it is. There's other methods too where you can use a food processor, but I don't have one of those yet. Anybody want to come sponsor me and buy me a food processor? I'll feed you in the next episode. So, all right. So, KitchenAid dough hook. Usually start on 2. And then usually I just add everything one by one. Right, 1 egg at a time. And if it's not moving, since this is a smaller batch, you'll have to get the speed up higher to kind of break the eggs. And you can kind of see them come together in here. So if you look at that, add a little bit more. You see the egg yolks are like orange, so this gives it a nice finishing touch in the end. So, and if it's not moving anywhere in a lower speed, you can either get it higher to kind of get things moving. Kind of get the flour to move. Now as we're going there you go. The dough's coming together. Once you see it come together like this, you want to turn it down a little bit slower. Otherwise, you'll get flour everywhere. So we're just going to mix that until everything comes together. Roughly about 2 minutes. So while we wait, another trick. So say you have, this little splatter over there. The rind, right? Say Parmesan cheese. You have this rind. Usually they just throw away, or you cut it out. So one perfect way to make use of this is once you cut it out, right? Once you have it all cut off, and you're just left with the good stuff, we'll cut this one off too. Cut it smaller pieces. So our dough's, if you look over here real quick, Jeremy, pasta's coming together already. So we'll just shut this off and then finish it by hand. But as I was saying about the cheese, you have all these rinds that you'll just throw away. You can actually make a thing called a brodo, which is a Parmesan stock. So you have these, hard pieces. There's still a lot of flavor in them. So what you do is you make a Parmesan brodo. We had some more already in here, so we'll just add it in there. So now instead of adding basic pasta water to your cacio e pepe, now you have Parmesan brodo. So you just have more Parmesan flavors everywhere. I'll turn everything off over here. So we'll let that steep as long as possible. And then we'll go back to our pasta. So I'll kind of knead it in the bowl first to get all the remnants that's still in the bowl. And sometimes, it could be a little bit wet or dry. And if it's more dry, that's more a problem because then you'll have to add water. You can just sprinkle on water here and then knead it until it comes together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work the dough a good amount. Kind of smooth it out. So the technique is just kind of like kneading bread. You flip over and you push. Push, fold, push. You kind of see there's still like pieces on there. And it might be hard for a little bit, but once you let the dough relax and let it rest, usually takes about a minimum of an hour. You'll see that it'll come out a lot better. So we have one that's already ready. So we'll put this in the fridge. Let me get some plastic wrap real quick. So it's nice and wrapped so it doesn't dry out. So minimum at least an hour or no longer than overnight. Because since it's fresh dough, once you leave it out longer than overnight, you'll have these weird brown spots on there. So we have one here that's already ready to go. You can see it's nice and it feels a little wet. It's all right because you can just add more flour. Now what we would like to do is to probably break it up into sections. Cut this in half. So we'll have one for agnolotti, one for raviolo, and the other one in there we'll use for spaghetti. So I'm going to get some flour out on your board. Dust it a little bit. I'll probably set this off to the side so we don't break anything. I'll put this over. Get your rolling pin and just kind of work it. Just flatten it out because then we're going to feed this to the roller and you would kind of want it, as thin as the first setting. So that way the pasta won't break. Now it's pretty thin right now, but eventually I'll get it as wide as it can get on the roller. Just want to stretch it out, help it out. So once we got that started there, move this aside. Pull this out a little bit. Open up our extension. And then, this is the ones that you can buy separately for this machine. So you have a roller, a fettuccine cutter, and then a spaghetti cutter. So we'll probably use spaghetti today. But if you want, you can use fettuccine. It's all up to you. Take some time to get it in there. Lock it into place. So now the setting on this one is kind of backwards. So 0 or 1 is the widest part. So we can turn it on, and you can kind of see. Sometimes it'll have a mind of its own if you don't guide it. So we'll go one by one per setting. So now we're at number 2. So now once I get to number 2, I turn it off and I do I call it, what's that? But trifold. So fold it once into the middle, other one in the middle, and then one more. And then roll it out again. So that way we're building elasticity to the dough, strengthen the dough a little bit. And it helps smooth it out too. So you can see now it's a little bit thicker. So we'll start at 1 again. Always, when you do the settings on this, you go one by one. You don't want to go 1 to 3. Otherwise, you could have a rupture in your dough. On this one, I like to go a little bit faster. But if you're not used to it, you can always go in the lower speed. Go back to 3. Now after the 3 fold and I rolled it back down to 3, I'm going to go back again and fold it one more time. And this will be the last fold. So the first fold will be the trifold, then the last one will be just in half. And then the dough too right now is still dry. If it's a little wet, you might want to dust it with a little bit of flour. But since we're good, we're fine. So the trick is when it gets longer, you want to start higher and kind of center it when you feed it. And then just pull it back and guide it with your right while you're pulling with your left. It's a good thing to if you have time at home and you want to practice your pasta skills. You have time. It's a good time. So now we're at 5. And for this one, we'll probably stop at 6. All right. See, now we got this nice long dough here. So we'll probably only use half. Oh, maybe, yeah. So we'll do half agnolotti and then half raviolos. So we'll cut it in half. So this one, I got this cutter from the market too, like a couple years ago. So one is a straight edge, and then one is, kind of like this ribbed edges. Kind of helps seal when you make agnolottis. So, all right. Let's see what's our widest of a cutter. What we can use. So we can probably only do 2. 1 raviolo. Just because there's a lot of waste and pasta on that one. So, or maybe we can just do. Let's see. Yeah, we'll stick to them. We'll do another one later. All right. So raviolo and agnolotti. Now we'll get our ricotta mixture. Kind of helped harden already. So I just had a rubber band to kind of tie off the bottom. So now when you get here, I like to start about about a 2 thumb width on the bottom. Squeezing out of here. Should have got a bigger bag, but it's all good. All right. Now here we can do like a little spiral. Let's do one. Here's our towel. Be like a cool little piece is you'll take an egg yolk. Since we made this little nest right here, we'll just put that in the middle. Since we have 2 pastas going right here, the egg white too, you can use this as a sealant. So we'll just break it up. So now that we got both of this, what you would want to do, get your brush, and you would kind of just make a seal on your agnolotti. And then the key is to fold it over. Right when you got it right there, this will stick out. Push some of that in a little bit. And then you crimp that side. And then here, get a towel real quick. When you get here, you just kind of press along the side right here. Right, just to kind of seal everything in, make sure it's nice and tight, airtight, no bubbles. So I seal only one side and I don't seal the other. So if you're pressing this way, the air if there's air gaps in there, it can kind of escape out. Right? And then now, since we're all nice and tight here, we close this one off. And this is the fun part. I go about size of, just depends, maybe 1/2 inch. You can go bigger if you like. All right, now so we have these like little pillows, little ball of cheese pillows. Where's the cutter? All right, now we got the cutter. Now you'd want to leave like 1/4 inch, Let me show you right here. 1/4 inch from the top. So you'd use a flat part, right, and just take your knife and just roll down. This is just extra pasta, and if you want to cook this later, that'll be good too. It'll be kind of thick, like a tagliatelle. Now you take the rib part, kind of makes your shape. So when you do it, you go down right here, set it, you push up, and that way, when you put it, it seals it. So they're nice and sealed. See, like the little pillows. And if they don't seal like the end, what you can do is just kind of pinch them together. And sometimes they'll have like little pockets and they won't seal right. It's all right. Just take your finger, seal them in there. All right. So we're just kind of make sure everything is sealed. So when we cook these, we won't have any, leakage. So, instead of just doing ricotta cheese, you can stuff this with ricotta, depending on the season. Ricotta and mushrooms, ricotta and, when squash season is around, you can do like kabocha squash or butternut squash. I mean, it's endless. You can even do spinach ricotta. So, but this is just like a basic ricotta filling with some lemon. So once we get this over here, put them aside. Now we'll go to our raviolo. Same thing, I just do a little wash. This one you kind of want to be a little bit gentle. So I know I cut this one the same size. You might want to do something a little bit bigger. Just so, because the top we'll need more space to counter for that little amount of cheese and egg yolk. So I just usually just fold it over. Like the other side too. I seal one side, and then I just kind of work my way around. So I get a nice and, seamless circle. You might have to move stuff around here and there, but looks like we're getting somewhere there. There's a little pocket of air. Just open up one side and close the edges over here with the back of your finger. And then just seal it. There might be some air bubbles later, but it's all good. Now we got that covered and sealed. We'll take a big cutter, center it, take the pasta around. There you go. A little egg yolk raviolo. Pretty cool, right? It's big ravioli. This one you can just serve with like a little bit of butter, brown butter, some pancetta, classic, a little arugula on top. Now we got two dough shapes. And this too, if you have this left over, you wrap it in plastic, you can kind of reuse it again. So if it's just going to be pasta. Put this away. We'll get a plate to kind of put this and let it chill before we start the other doughs. So if you're gonna put it in the fridge, if you have some semolina left, take some semolina just so it won't stick. Just a little bit on the bottom. Put that in there. A little bit here for the agnolotti. Little balls of pillows of cheese. Just sit on. Then the next one we'll do spaghetti. So we'll put this in the fridge. Let it set. Now with the raviolo, you can't freeze that because egg yolk does not freeze properly. And if you unfreeze it, it's just it almost looks like it's cooked. It doesn't come back to its yolk form. So the agnolotti you can definitely make ahead and freeze if you like, but the raviolo has to be made fresh. And that's a good sign if you're in a restaurant and they have an egg yolk raviolo, they make that fresh. So now we'll take the leftover dough, do the same process. So if you're gonna make this ahead next time, once the dough has chilled over an hour, take it out of the fridge and let it sit for like another 20, 30 minutes. That way you're not fighting a cold dough like I did. Putting a lot of work and elbow grease to kind of flatten it out. So helps out if you let it sit out, relax, room temperature before you start working it. So we'll go back again. So this is the common issue if you don't roll it out flat enough in the first setting, is then when you feed it in, it kind of wants to go its own way where it's flat somewhere else. So, but if it happens on your first roll, then no worries. You can fix it again because we're gonna fold this again. Remember. So we got the two, fold in half, one more time again. Take your rolling pin. Hope something doesn't fall there. And I usually like to make, like a little starter on the tip, like a little nipple to kind of help the feed start, especially if your dough is as wide as it can get on your roller. This little tip can kind of help it start together. Once you get there again, I fold it in half, leave that tip exposed. I just do it this way so, at the edges you'll have this breakage. So once I flip it in half, it kind of smooths it all out. We're at 3. Going at 5. Going to 6. All right. So now we're here, back to the old stage. First one, we'll cut this in half, and then we'll take this off. We're gonna use the cutter. We're gonna use the cutter to make our spaghetti. And then this, you don't want to submerge in water. Like last time I used this was, I did squid ink pasta. So you can see it's all black. So you might want to push it out a little bit. Yeah, you can do different colors too. A pasta, the one we do at work, is green, but we're using spinach and arugula. So you can do squid ink if you want it black, which is cool. It doesn't have really the flavors of that, like, you know, fishy brine, but you get this nice dark color. Same thing. You just feed it through, and then you'll see it get cut. All right. So now when we get here, since it's fresh noodle and he cut it, there's more surface area. What I'd like to do is get my semolina. I don't want to use flour just because it might get cakey. So semolina just kind of like sticks to the sticky parts, right? Without having too much. You can kind of see there's like little speckles of the semolina, and that's what you want. Kind of, make that make something to kind of not the pasta stick together. So we'll just set it on some more semolina while we cut this other one. So this one might get tricky since it's kind of like squared off and it's the same size as this. So if you have your cutter, I just cut off a little bit of the edge, right, to kind of help guide it. Because if you try to stuff it when it's squared and you don't get it right, it'll crumble in itself. So it's okay to lose some pasta on the tip. Same process here. Take your semolina. And now if you're going to cook fresh pasta, it's a much shorter time than dry pasta. It's about half. So usually depending on a pasta like this, if you're going to do spaghetti, it'll take upwards to 7 to 8 minutes. If it's fresh, it'll take like 3 to 4 minutes. So, all right, we'll set this aside. Now we'll start the other components for our pasta. Cool. So now that we have our pasta cut, now it's time to get, with our composed dish. So what I like to do with the take on cacio e pepe is we'll do like this smoked salmon I bought this from Whole Foods. So this is a hot smoked peppered Atlantic salmon. So we'll do like the cacio e pepe, and then in the end we'll add chunks of this smoked salmon. We break it up in the end, some fresh tomatoes, and then we'll do fried capers. So kind of a little bit of a different twist, but it's going to be really good. Cut it in half. Take this center off. Do some nice dices. These tomatoes can be very tricky if you cut them too. My knife's pretty sharp, but since these are like kind of nicely ripened, the skin's super, super tricky. It's almost like tough leather. All right. So we got our tomatoes cut. We got some shallots, garlic, your basic aromatics. And also too, we had some shrimp that we marinated a little bit ahead of time. We just put some garlic, shallot, olive oil, and some lemon zest, and some herbes de Provence. So since we have our oil kind of nice and warm here, and we'll do another kind of scary, almost burn your house down type of video episode right here. We'll do fried capers. So capers, right, soaked in water and brine. And this is why I kind of do it this way. There's a lot of water weight, residual water in the can. Just kind of get it as dry as possible. We'll probably even use some paper towel just so we don't burn down the house. Just dry them off as much as you can. There's still going to be some liquid, but so we'll start with a couple. Okay. Yeah, this will be a nicer touch. You'll tell the difference in taste from fresh, or not like unfried capers to fried capers. And to me, when I fry them, it reminds me almost like a sardine-like flavor, like salty. And if you want to make your own Caesar dressing without, egg yolks and sardines, and you want to achieve that like brininess of flavor, you can use mustard as your thickener and fried capers for that saltiness. Probably transfer this to a higher heat. And you can see they kind of just like puff up when you fry them. Turn off our heat back there. That's about good. We'll just strain this out in a bowl with a paper towel. good right there. Let this sit to the side, kind of cool off. Now we'll start. Where should we start first? Cacio e pepe with. Let's see. Yeah, let's start with that one first. I'm trying to find my pants. Can't find them. So we already have our pasta water going in the bag, right? But this one doesn't have salt yet, so probably move this aside. I'll have mixed water and pardon me real quick. Get some towels. Pasta's in a boil. Now we'll have to make it taste like the ocean. A couple handfuls of salt. 1, 2, 3. Make sure your water is always seasoned when you do pasta. And then you can tell here now with our Parmesan Brodo, right? The cheese is kind of melted. If you can smell this right now, the water smells like Parmesan. So I took water and scraps and made Parmesan water. So we got our heat going here. Probably do multiple things at the same time too. Do something for the Now, I know a lot of people don't like to start cooking with olive oil first, but I'm just going to do it now. I don't like it either, but I don't have any other oil. Use the olive oil as like a finishing oil for me. So we'll just start with a little bit of oil, and then we'll do a little bit of shallot. A little bit of garlic. All right, we'll take a little wooden spoon. Just kind of get a good start. A base. And then now we'll take some of that stock. So just a stock, and then we'll do, say, like a good amount of butter. So that will be kind of like the base of the sauce, right? And then what's going to thicken it later is the cheese and the pasta from all that gluten. So we'll take a little basket. I got this little Chinese noodle basket. Kind of works nicely if you have it there. So what we'll do is shake off a little bit of the excess flour. There's some there, semolina. And we'll just dump it. I'll take my big old chopsticks here. And what I like to do is kind of stir it to kind of prevent it from sticking to each other, right? What's cool about this is, it has that little tip right there. You can kind of hang it off to the side. Nice. See, the pasta is nice. Nice and working right there. And then in the back pan, we'll start with some mushrooms. So we got like shiitakes. We've used this in our last episode with the bang bang. Nice umami flavor to them. And then here we got some baby bellas or creminis. So you can tell by the sauce now it's nice and thick. So we'll just turn that on medium to low. Put some oil in there. Some salt to get all the moisture out. Now our pasta is done. You can tell because they're almost like doubled in size. Right? What I like about this noodle is you can get most of the water out if you don't need it. I can take some. Probably turn on the fan. Give those mushrooms a nice sear. So now we'll turn the pasta up high, and now we'll take our nice parmegiano reggiano, and then we'll just shave this onto the pasta. Lots of it too. It's a good amount. And then don't forget, turn off the heat now. Black pepper. Kind of see. You can always add more parmigiano if it's not thick enough. But you can see it's kind of coming together, right? The cheese kind of melted, helps become the sauce. And now we are ready to plate the first pasta. We'll take our little plate. Do you need a pause? I'll probably plate on this side right here. Oh, you want to go back on this side or no? Okay, cool.
I gotta switch it. I gotta have the cameras here.
No worries.
Now a good time to switch.
What's that?
Is now a good time to reset the camera?
Yeah. Nice fried capers. And then we'll take this chunk of this smoked salmon, kind of break it apart, and just add it on there. Oh, it's good. It's really good. Wish you were here. Poor Jeremy and Craig have to eat all this Pasta. Kind of mix it around again. We'll turn off our sizzling mushroom back there. Right, just pieces. Kind of fix some of this, kind of make it look more composed. Right? And then a couple finishing touches, we'll do some more fresh Parmesan. And then for the extra pepper, I got a little micro arugula. It's cool that you can buy this now at Whole Foods. Just a little bit of a green garnish, offsetting colors, you know. Also give it a nice peppery bite. There you go. There's cacio pepe with some smoked salmon, fried capers, and fresh tomatoes. All right, that was one. Now we'll do the raviolo. So now next we got the raviolo. So with this one, you don't want to use a basket. You just kind of want to cook it in itself in a boil of water. It's got to cook a little bit longer because you want the egg to kind of break apart, but also be cooked. So our mushrooms here look delicious. Something's beeping. Out of batter? Okay. All right. So we'll put it back on heat. Now we're going to make brown butter again. So we'll just take a nice heaping pile here. Make a little butter sauce. Like a mushroom butter sauce. And then what I like to add for more flavor, I bought this from the Italian market. It's porcini oil. So if you're tired of truffle oil, like me, truffle oil everything at work, you know, this is a nice little twist. I've never seen this before, so curious. Let's try it. It's very faint porcini taste, but you can taste it there, so it'll be a nice enhancer. Just add a little bit. So we're making like brown basted mushrooms. So the mushrooms give the brown butter some of that umami flavor. So it's kind of a win-win. All right, well then lastly we'll take out our little pillows of cheese right here. Look at them. They're so cute, right? Very cute. So one way to fish this out, since it's kind of boiling in this water, is you want to use what we call a skimmer, or in our culinary term, we call this a spider. So it's almost there. I mean, one way to tell is lift this up and feel your yolk. It's still a little under. So we're almost done there, but what we can do is set up our bowl. So we'll push this aside. We'll leave this with Craig. See how, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Craig, don't eat that. I gotta take a picture of that. He's gonna tease me.
I'm evil.
I gotta do a video picture of it first.
So we got this nice black bowl here, kind of contrast. So we'll let that cook. Now we'll do mushrooms as like our base. All right. Let's take some of these mushrooms, big ones on the bottom. And this is just like all fairly simple, you know, it's just butter and mushrooms and a pasta. Then these small shiitakes we can save on the side and use that as a garnish on top. Nice flat surface. Check on our pasta. We're about there. Let's take it out. No worries. Take our spoon underneath. Gently nestle that in there. Look at that. All right. Pour some of this brown butter with some mushroom essence. Put a couple more on top. All right. So while we finish this, we'll drop these agnolottis in there too. We'll just dump them in there. And this one we'll just make a simple cacio and pepe sauce too. A lot of things going on at once, which is cool. All right, we'll finish this with some more parmesan. And this for me too, just a little bit of lemon zest. Just because this dish is going to be really rich. The best part with this dish is you take a knife and a fork and cutting the yolk, and the yolk just breaks apart. I'll put it here. Just put some of these micro, since we already have them. Just a little bit, a little goes a long way. There you go. A little raviolo, brown butter mushrooms. We'll leave this with Craig too. We're almost done. Maybe cook off some of these shrimps. Yeah, those pastas are getting nice and happy. Two, four, six. Two for me, two for you, two for Craig. Perfect. All right. As soon as our pasta's pretty sure they're nice and done, you can see they're nice and plump. And you can always just finish them in the broth too. So don't be afraid if you're going to cook them in the broth if you pull them out too early. Go over, turn that off back there. That one. Then we'll add our, cholesterol-free butter. Just kidding. Add a little bit more. Add our black pepper. This meal is definitely not cholesterol free. All right. Some more Parmesan cheese. Tell how the cheese kind of makes everything kind of like creamy. Shrimp's almost done too. Kind of. We'll let that steam in there. And we can plate this last dish. Little pillows of cheese. Now, this is not like traditional sauce for this, but wanted to show you more of the agnolotti itself more than anything else. Maybe put a little too much. Sometimes less is more. There you go. Likewise, more cheese. There we go. That's it. Give the plate a little wipe so it's nice and clean. little cacio pepe agnolotti. We did a raviolo with some brown butter mushrooms, and then spaghetti with smoked salmon. All right. Well, hope you guys had fun watching how to make pasta. And if you have any comments and questions, recipes, we'll put it up, with the next video, and hopefully you guys can give it a try. Enjoy.